Hello, everybody, and welcome to our 10th Victory Green Hour of the year as your Philadelphia Eagles defeat the Washington Commanders 29-18 to successfully defend their NFC East title and become the first team in the division to win back-to-back division titles since the 2001 through 2004. Philadelphia Eagles, every other team in the division, the Cal Turds, the Commanders, and the small guys are all eliminated from playoff contention. What's left? Well, the Eagles can't get the number 1 seed. Probably can't get the 4 seed. It would take them losing out and the Panthers winning out. And they can get the 2nd seed. This is something we'll discuss either today or later this week about what we think the Eagles should do in their final 2 games. But let's just relish the fact that they are NFC East champions. I'm your host, LJ Harrell, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Connor Donald. Connor, what's going on, man?
Man, it feels good to be, back-to-back champions in a division where it felt like it was honestly never going to happen again. Like, it's good. I mean, there was points, it wasn't the prettiest of games, 29-18. It probably honestly should have been 29-10, whatever it is, what it is. You can take away the points that were in garbage time, however you want to manage it. But, I mean, the Eagles won. And it was a very important win to wrap things up. And then, you can choose to, like you said, we're going to talk about it probably this episode a little bit, prelude to it, and then in the next episode talk further about it. But you can kind of control your own destiny. How badly do you want to pursue the 2 seed? How badly do you want to get some of these guys healthy who have been, this team's been really banged up for weeks now. And some of them could definitely use the extra time off. But I mean, first and foremost, huge W, huge win. Whatever it is, what it is, was half of it against Josh Johnson. Sure. Was half against the backup, Marcus Mariota. Sure. But at the end of the day, you play what's in front of you, you get the win, and that's what the Eagles did.
Hey, I mean, everybody was impressed with the Cowboys win over the Raiders, and then when the Eagles do it, it's nothing. But, the double standard is crazy in the National Football League. Before we jump into it, as always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJRL54 and follow the Eagles Pinpull Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcasts at Eagles Pinpull Network. If you're joining us live, let us know your thoughts on the game, the clinching of NFC East, those that were named to the Pro Bowl, the fight, which I know we'll get into. That was pretty interesting. And also, before we get started, I know it's a couple days early. I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas as we are a couple days away from Santa visiting everybody. And hopefully those with little kids, I know that the best part is seeing them, in the morning when they get to see the presents underneath the tree, the smiles on their faces. I know, Connor, you can't wait for your kids to be able to enjoy that in a couple of days. So just wanted to wish everybody a Merry Christmas before we jump into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for those who are just tuning in or who don't know me, if you've been tuning in for a while, you would know I have a 5-year-old and a 13-month-old. Going on 14. It's close. It's January 2nd, 14 months. But so this is super special, such an exciting time. So definitely Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, however you want to say it. It's your choice. But this isn't such a fun time of the year for anyone who has kids. For people in general, it's a magical time of the year. So definitely enjoy it. I mean, the NFL isn't doing us favors with the Christmas schedule. They expected a lot better at this point by these teams, but so be it.
Adam explained, LJ, it's 30 degrees out. Why are you a ceiling fan on? My ceiling fan's on, and I'm wearing shorts. I wore shorts today. I like this weather. It's much better than being 100 degrees outside. Thanks for joining us, Adam. We appreciate it.
Clearly, Adam has not tuned in enough to know that LJ is a rather warm fella. I'm an
offensive lineman. What can I say?
As much as he loves winter and cooling down, you can never be too cool in his world. So,
no, I will say one thing though about I don't have kids. I have, I bought the dog an Eagles Kelly Green jersey this year, so I can't wait for her to rep it this weekend when we watch the Eagles Bills game. So yeah, I still buy the dog's presents. You got to do that too. They deserve the love as well. Sometimes pets are better than humans. I won't lie. All right, Merry Christmas to you too, Adam. So let's jump into this. It was not a good start as Shipley. I have my temp at 72. Man, so I try to avoid, I know getting off, I try to avoid putting the heat on. I have roommates, they might put it on, but I try to avoid putting the heat on. It has to be like in the low 50s for me to even consider putting it on. Me and the dog both like it nice and cool. So
LJ hates spring and summer.
I hate the summer with a passion. Summer is the
summer
worst
with a
season
passion, for sure.
Passion. All right. So it wasn't a good start to the game as Will Shipley fumbled the opening kickoff, and I was like, here we go again. The Eagles defense showed out, didn't give up anything, and the Commanders went the cowardly way and kicked the field goal instead of their season's over. Just go for it, There were a couple of cowardly calls by Dan Quinn and the Commanders, punting on 4th and 11 with 5-6 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. It was 4th and 9 or something, and they were down 11 or whatever it was. So there were a lot of cowardly calls on the Commander side, and the Eagles defense did great. And then Jalen may have played one of his better games of the season. Like he obviously didn't turn the ball over, had a couple of touchdown passes, got I think early in the game it was literally passes just to AJ and Devontae. And Saquon was finally able to get going. Saquon broke the 1,000 yard mark. AJ Brown is 65 yards away. Devontae Smith is 69 yards away from 1,000. The offense is starting to get going at the right time, albeit against not great teams. We'll see what happens this week against Buffalo and how they decide to play these final two games, which is what we'll talk about later in the week. But I was impressed, the overall flow of the game and how the offense worked, and they were able to put up 29 points on the board and do what they had to do in order to clinch the NFC East.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're talking offense, so we'll get into special teams. There's a couple names specifically. You mentioned Will Shipley. The fumble was an issue, and then his decision later on in the game he was ready to take the kneel down, and then he came out of the end zone, which was just completely, I just couldn't understand that. And then we'll get into Jake Elliot later on. He deserves his own portion of the show. But I agree with you. I think at this point with this offense, it all was just a matter of, they had to get going. It didn't matter who they had to get going. We played teams that were not on the level of the Raiders maybe, but probably on the level of the Commanders. We played some teams earlier in the season that were not the best of competition, and our offense looked absolutely putrid against them. And now we're at a point where we face two teams, and I know, I saw it was shared around on X today about Christopher Russo's comments about, on First Take, talking about, they can't be taken seriously until their offense shows out against a good team. And I mean, if you go up against the Buffalo Bills, their defense has actually been probably on a similar level to the Commanders and the Raiders throughout this season. So I don't necessarily believe that if you can keep stride with Josh Allen, that's an accomplishment. Yes, I agree. But if you go up against that defense and are able to put points up, I mean, that defense has been very good all season. That team has been very good all season outside of Josh Allen. But beyond that, it was good to see them continue to keep things going, continue to try some different things, continue to see Saquon Barkley get going. Exactly like you said, Jalen Hurts had a really good game as well, just pulling up the stats there. He went 22 for 30 for 185 yards, 2 touchdowns. He protected the ball really well. For the most part, he did have a fumble at one point, but nothing it wasn't a lost fumble. He recovered his own fumble, but seeing, AJ Brown be involved and get the win, and Devontae Smith did have a pretty bad drop earlier or at an early portion of the game. But I mean, it's good to see things going in a much better direction for this offense. The offensive line is still really concerning to me. And I feel like one of the things, as we kind of talked about, one of the positions that really needs the most rest heading into these 2 weeks that you can potentially give them rest would be the offensive line, and like Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson, who clearly have been nowhere near 100% all season. But if you rest them, you're obviously going to take out Jalen Hurts. You're obviously going to take out Saquon Barkley. You're obviously not going to put them at risk of backup linemen being out there, especially against the Buffalo Bills or against the Commanders, especially after Dan Quinn's comments post-game and the 2-point conversion, fiasco where, for the cowardly calls he made in game to come out of your shell and say that post game is a little, I mean, it is what it is. It is the Commanders are a well below 500 team that's packing it in for the season. But it is good to see the offense get going, and there was some major positives to take away from it, no matter how you look at it. But there are still some concerning aspects.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we can, since Adam brought up, I'm afraid Elliot may cost them a game. How do you miss 3 kicks exactly the same way? You are pushing it left, adjust. So I sometimes wonder if there's an injury there, but he was kicking off and before that 2-point conversion, he kicked the previous 2 extra points. So I get Sirianni wanting to get to 19, because if you do the math, 8, you need you score a touchdown, you need a 2-point conversion. Score another touchdown, need a 2-point conversion, and then the field goal. Like, there was zero chance that the Commanders were going to score 3 times, let alone 2. Score once, let alone score once with Josh Johnson as the quarterback. Could they have kicked the field goal? Sure, but it is what it is. And then the big fight at the end was crazy. But yeah, like I personally would have brought in kickers, even if you weren't going to sign one, just to show Elliot, look, we're serious. Like, if you don't figure this crap out, we will replace you. But like, he struggled last year, and then in the playoffs made every kick except 1 extra point against the Rams, which almost cost the Eagles the game. But in the playoffs he comes through. But if you think about it, in 2023 he was like 93%. Last year 75-ish%. This year 70%. He has dropped majorly, and last year 1 of 7, I think, from 50. This year 4 of 9 or something. So yep. He used to just be automatic. So it is definitely something that he has to figure out. Like, they can't cut him this year. His contract, just the amount of money, but that's definitely going to be something in the offseason that the Eagles are going to consider. The Will Shipley thing. When you I can't believe he took it. Even Britton Covey had his hand up and was like, don't come out, and he still stumbled out like an idiot. So I mean, if I was the Commanders kicker, I would have kept kicking it to him too. Yeah, so they do have to figure that out. Who knows? I don't think it'll be that important the next 2 weeks. Honestly, I was telling the people that I was watching the game with on Sunday, these last 2 games mean nothing to me. Like, I'm prioritizing health over everything else. Once I hit the 35-yard line, I'm kicking 50-yard, nothing but 50-yard field goals with Elliot. Like, I won't even try to score touchdowns. I'm going to force him to kick a boatload of 50-yard field goals the next 2 weeks. And we're going to find out if this dude has it. You're going to be in Buffalo. It's going to be windy. You're going to be in Philly. It's going to be windy, because when you make the playoffs, your first round game's in Philly. Your second round game potentially could be in Chicago, Seattle, who knows? Or Philly again. So like, I personally, now it's not going to happen. Like, I'm thinking way outside the box here. Once I hit the 35-yard line, 52-yard field goal. I'm trying 52 yards, 55 yards. I don't care if he kicks 10 of them in a game. I want you to figure this out. It would never happen. It's probably not sound logic, but I would put Tanner McKee out there. Let's get into get down to the 35-40 yard line. Trot out Elliott, kick the field goal. You're gonna figure it out sooner or later. And if you can't do it, this is why I think they should have tried out kickers this week and then signed one to the practice squad. So if you needed to call one up, you have one ready. You know who you're going to be. You know who it's going to be. But obviously, if there was a good kicker left, he would be on a roster right now. So that's what makes it hard. But I know that's not sound logic, but I would force Elliott to be kicking nothing but 50-yard field goals over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, Adam's exploit says, I'm afraid Elliot may cost him a game. How do you miss 3 kicks exactly the same way you were pushing it left adjust? I agree with you guys. You say they can't move, obviously they can't move on this 2025 year, but in the offseason, and I posted it to our X feed, there's been in recent memory 2 post June 1st kicker releases. It was Brandon McManus and Justin Tucker, and I feel like we're on our way to being that third one in the last like decade or even 2 decades, where we post June 1st a kicker. Like, how could you ever fathom that idea? But if you pre June 1st them, you're not saving any money. Post June 1st, you save nearly $3 million. So the odds are that you're going to have to make the decision and you're going to have to use a post June 1st release, which we know Howie Roseman loves those post June 1st releases for very specific players. The good thing is we don't have those very specific players on roster. We don't have a lot of veterans on roster who he has to worry about kicking the can down the road with some of their money, like, you know, a la Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Jason Kelsey of prior seasons. You just kind of move that money through 2 years down the road. But now, you know, it might be Jake Elliott that has to be that way. And I agree with you. The regression over the past 3 years, you nailed it. I think it was 90. I posted it soon after or during the game, even when he missed that extra or that 50-yarder, the back-to-back 50-yarders that he missed. He's at, I think it was 92, 78, and he was just above 70% this year. Like, that's 3 straight years of significant regression. And you cannot bring a guy like that. You can love him, and I get it. You know, it feels like Nick Sirianni's going on the I have faith tour this year, because anyone that he has put his faith into, he is standing by no matter what happens, no matter how bad they've been.
He's not going to throw anybody under the bus.
He's not, exactly. He's not going to throw anyone under the bus, but you can tell like he's going to go out there and he's going to support them. And we're in a spot where you have to support these guys. But I agree with you. Jake Elliott's got to figure it out. Like, in a playoff game, he could absolutely cost us games. We've seen kickers throughout this year. I don't think over the last 2 years we've ever seen kickers cost so many games for so many different teams. So it's so important for you to be a consistent piece. And he used to be automatic, consistent. You could trust him. And now over the last 2 years, he's 5 of 16 from 50 plus. Like, you have to be able to hit. For most kickers, that's automatic. That's something you hit and you know you're gonna hit.
Cam Little in pregame hit a 76-yarder in now it is in Denver, high altitude, but he hit a 76-yarder. Brandon Aubrey can roll out of bed and hit 60 yarders. And Cam
Little and Brandon Aubrey are different. They're just different. I mean, I'm sure we felt the same way about Jake Elliott at some point, but we never saw Jake Elliott in practice nailing 70-yarders like it was nobody's business. He can hit in the 60 range, like the low 60 range, easy, but we never sat there and had all the faith in the world that he's going to go there and boot 70-yard field goals and it be nobody's business. But otherwise, like Adam said, Juergens missed the block. The poor Eagles socials did Juergens and Dickerson such an injustice.
We may touch on this. I don't know how Juergens made the Pro Bowl team. I don't think he has not played well this year to make the Pro Bowl team, and he made it somehow. That's astonishing.
I'm sure we'll hit on it at the end of the episode, but there's 2 guys there, Juergens and Carter, that absolutely namesake, okay, but by play,
I mean, Carter's not as big as the Juergens making it. Carter, okay.
Jordan Davis should have been over Jalen Carter. The biggest
snub is definitely Jordan Davis. You could have had 100%. Both of them on there. You could have. But I mean, I get it. Carter's missed 4 or 5 games, which is insane that he made the Pro Bowl team. We'll talk about it.
Steen was lucky he didn't get suspended. Absolutely. I mean, Steen. That was close. I mean, would it have been a major loss?
No,
probably not. But
I'm of the belief going into this, and we'll talk about it. I'm of the belief I would play the starters the first half of this week's game, and then second half and the Washington game, I'm playing all backups. Like, so I mean, like, if he would have gotten suspended, you throw maybe if Johnson's back, you put Fred Johnson at right guard. Who knows? and just let him get some theirs. But he is fortunate. But like, I mean, he got jumped literally by what, like 10 guys. It was hilarious just to see him fighting off 10 commanders at one time. But yeah, and then I do love the leadership though when he was walking off the field of Jalen Hurts, you know, kind of talking to him probably, and who knows if we find out on Hard Knocks tonight what he says, what he was saying, probably not, but like just letting him know, like, dude, you got to be, you can't be doing this. We need you. You're a starter. You know, if this was a closer game, this is a playoff game, and we lose you, we could be in trouble. So I do love that leadership from, and we've seen it a lot, like since Hard Knocks started. So I don't know if it's the cameras, but we've seen it a lot. Like he was talking to the offensive line on the bench this past week. Him and AJ dapping each other up on the field, talking on the field. Like we hadn't seen a lot of that, you know, previously. So it is good. And maybe Hard Knocks is the best thing that happened to the Eagles in terms of the AJ Jalen dynamic, because they seem they're not all the way back to what they were, you know, when he first got traded here, but like they're interacting a lot more than they were the first half of the year. So I don't know if they're just doing it for the cameras, even if they are just doing it for the cameras. I think it's a good thing for them. Like it's brought the team closer, and you can kind of see it because, you know, they seem to be playing for each other. There's a lot more leadership, a lot more talking on the sidelines, you know, and obviously the Jalen and AJ dynamic of dapping each other up, celebrating when, you know, one scores a touchdown or the other scores a touchdown. I think that has been a positive in terms of, you know, maybe it is just the Hard Knocks stuff, but that's a positive for them.
Yeah, and I think we hit on it a few episodes ago, and I made mention of it. You know, the NFL media and, you know, ABC, NBC, Fox, whoever, ESPN, whoever is hosting the game gets to decide what we see on the sidelines. How do we know Jalen Hurts isn't doing this at times and they just flash to the sideline when he's sitting away from everybody else, looking at a tablet or not looking at a tablet, just staring off, you know, doing what we usually see on camera? We don't know genuinely what they want. It's just a matter of what they want us to see. And in Hard Knocks, it just so happens to be that we get to see everything. We get all exclusive access to everything.
I'm sure
a chunk of things.
Yeah, the Eagles have say in what is being shown. They're not showing everything, that's for damn sure.
Yeah, and of course on the sidelines, I mean, they're like, whatever, yeah, go to the sideline, show what you want, but outside of the sidelines, we're gonna kind of dictate what you see. But I mean, we don't know for sure that Jalen Hurts isn't more like that on the sideline, and just you know, what they're trying to create with, you know, a narrative based on what the commentator teams are talking about, that we're not seeing less than we should be seeing. And I still am of the belief that we're not seeing all that we could see of a lot of the players on the sidelines. It just so happens that they show when they want to show. But I agree with you. There's a chance Hard Knocks is really good for this team, and it came at a good time, and is clearly, whether or not Hard Knocks has some sort of a play in it, they've turned, and I mean, an easier schedule, they've kind of turned a corner, and they've done some really good things on offense. And I mean, at the end of the day, we still, for 2 straight weeks, we saw quite a different offense than we've seen for 13 weeks prior to this. So hopefully this continues to roll over into
defenses.
Of course, playing a lot worse defense, but hopefully it continues to roll over into the, you know, the more difficult defenses, and we don't end up kind of going back into our shell and doing what we used to do. Adams exploits, as I think Sirianni and Loeffler are much more involved in the game plan. I think Sirianni is. I mean, I don't think it's any, you know, Dallas Goedert's success this year, I think stems back to probably Loeffler being involved much more prior to this. I think people are seeing it more now because they're like, oh, look at this shovel pass play. This shovel pass play happened way earlier in the season as well. But there's this belief like, oh, it's just starting to happen, and they're showing Loeffler doing it at Bowling Green and stuff. I think Sirianni's more involved in the offensive game plan. I think Loeffler's always been kind of semi-involved in it. He wasn't brought in as a quarterback's coach just to sit there and watch Jalen Hurts and talk to him periodically.
Well, I mean, most of the offense, I would say, obviously Patullo, Sirianni, Loeffler, and Stoutland are kind of involved in it. Everybody kind of has an input, and then it comes down to Patullo, Sirianni, and probably Jalen of what plays that they feel comfortable with, in that giving week. So yeah, and then Adam also says they still have a chance at the number 2 seed. So they do. I'm still prioritizing health over, trying to get the number 2 seed. But the one thing I will, looking at the standings right now, if the playoffs were to start, we would have the Rams. I think the Rams are trying to find a way to face us in the first round, is what I think's happening. I think that they would much rather. I know the Eagles have beaten them 3 straight times, 2 last year, the 1 this year. I don't know if it's more, but they've had success against them. I really do think that the Rams want revenge somehow, some way, and feel like they match up well against us. So again, if the playoffs were to start, we would face the Rams. I'm not 100% sure who the Rams have on their schedule the rest of the way. They have the Cardinals, I think, next week, or I think in the last week of the year. But they can kind of, and with the Eagles,
Cardinals and Falcons.
So Falcons and then Cardinals.
Yep.
Yeah, so they're going to be 2 wins right there. And then the Niners are right there as well. So it is going to be the Rams and the Niners in the first round of the playoffs. I think that's a guarantee that it's going to be one of those two.
And Adam's Exploit says the Rams are the best NFC team right now. Now there's a lot of discussion around the national media and the Rams are the team to beat, but there's also this built-in narrative of the Rams away from home, the Rams in the cold. If you get them to come to the link, are they anywhere close to as good as if they were playing, in LA or in a dome or in Miami or somewhere where it's warm? So, and I kind of agree with that logic. They've blown a lot of their leads in colder climates, colder situations, up against good defenses. So it'll be interesting to see, who the Rams are up against, what type of situation they get put into, and if they're able to be truly the team to beat. They're a good team.
I would rather face San Francisco. I think San Francisco's had the easiest schedule in the league. They have a lot of injuries on the defense. They have Christian McCaffrey. He's good. But if you can find a way to slow down McCaffrey, I don't think their receivers are beating our secondary. And Kittle, that would be a nice matchup with him and, Zach Bond or him and Cooper DeJean. So I know we're talking, 3 weeks down the road, but obviously of the 3 NFC West teams that we could potentially face, I rather the Niners and then probably Seattle and then the Rams. My thing is, if you think about it, would you rather go to LA to play or go to Seattle and play? LA, it's going to be, the Colts stink. Let's be real. The Colts are done. They have Phillip Rivers at quarterback. That defense is kind of, they're injured. They're beat up. Yeah, the Colts.
They started at 7-1, and they're 8-6 now.
They've lost 6 of their last 7 or whatever it is.
Yep.
So they're done. That's not an impressive win as it would have been if it was earlier in the year when Daniel Jones was playing.
Daniel Jones, Sauce Gardner, but it's true. If Daniel Jones is there, and if Sauce Gardner is there, and if this team is, motivated, is motivated. Not to say that Phillip Rivers isn't motivated. I give him all the credit in the world that he's back and that he's playing. But Daniel Jones in that offense was a lot better than Phillip Rivers in that offense. Phillip Rivers, of course, he finally started throwing the ball. You saw him throw the ball down the field, but you can tell, his lack of mobility limits this offense a lot more than when Daniel Jones was there and he had a bit more mobility. And then, of course, the defense is starting to get banged up. It's not the Colts team that if they had played in, week 8, it's definitely far from that Colts team.
Exactly. So that win's not as impressive as it would have been earlier in the year. But and then when it comes to Seattle, if the Eagles had to go to LA, it would be half Eagles fans. There are really no Rams. The LA teams don't have it. It's going to be a home way. Every time we go to LA, it's a home game for the Eagles.
Did you see that video that was posted of a watch party at the LA stadium and there was 100 people?
Yeah, I did see
It was
that.
so sad. It was so sad. It was a sad. Like they had this whole stadium, and they were all watching this game, and they were all on one side of the stadium, and it might have been 100, 200 people. It was so sad.
It was sad. And then going to Seattle, I think it's obviously the weather. Like it's probably going to be raining. That stadium is an actual home field advantage, like the Link is. While there will be Eagles fans, it won't be taken over. It wouldn't be like half Eagles fans like it would be in LA. So, I mean, that's talking divisional round, maybe NFC Championship game. But that's just something to kind of put in the back of your mind as we get closer to the playoffs on what could happen. And again, like Adam said, the Eagles can still get the number 2 seed. But I much rather have a healthy Jalen, healthy Saquon, healthy AJ Brown. Again, remember 2023, AJ Brown played in a meaningless Week 18 game, got hurt against the Giants. We didn't have him when and granted it was the collapse. And I don't know if we had Devontae. Devontae had a big game. But like we didn't have AJ Brown, and the offense was awful that day besides Devontae. So like obviously Week 18 is nobody's gonna play. The Commanders can get their revenge against our backups. Yippity doo dah day. Frankie Louvu can go and cheap shot Will Shipley, whoever he wants to cheap shot, because that's what's gonna happen. But yeah, like
agreed. There's no way. Like at the most first half of the Bills game. That's probably where I cut it off. And I was saying that a couple weeks ago that I'd like to see that offense go out there against the Buffalo Bills, against a more a better opponent,
also,
just to see what happens.
Do you know what the weather forecast is for? It might snow. And
of course.
You don't want, and I get it can snow in Philly too, but Lane Johnson, he's projected to come back. What injury is he coming back from? Liz Frank, right? A foot injury. Mm-hmm. You do not want him on a slick field because it could happen again. But if there's no way Lane Johnson and Jalen Carter are back in my mind. There's no reason to put them out there. This is what I'm saying. Nobody's gonna play Week 18. I would do it first half because get Jalen Carter out there because he's somebody. If he doesn't play for a little bit, he gets a little winded. He gets just to get him back in the game action. Lane Johnson's a future Hall of Famer, doesn't need it, but if he wants to go out there just to get reps with Steen and the offensive line again, sure. Again, first half, but once you start taking out the offensive line, Jalen's definitely coming off the field because you're not putting Jalen behind
for sure
a backup offensive line. So I would see how the game plays, and we'll talk about this more Friday. But that's what I would do. But going back to the Washington game, the Eagles were down at the half again. Jake Elliott missing field goals, but they finally got the offense going in the second half and kind of their bread and butter running game. As Adam brought up the long 41-yard run by Saquon on a missed block by Juergens and Steen. Nice spin move, which he's had to do so much this year, making a move in the backfield. And then kind of getting to go down the field. The one thing Juergens did do on that play, he missed the initial block, but he went and got the linebacker, which took what would have been a 5-yard gain to a 42-yard gain. So good job by Juergens not allowing the missed tackle, not kicking himself in the middle of a play on a missed tackle. So just battling through that. Tank Bigsby getting a touchdown run. Actually, before that, Saquon's touchdown run was ridiculous. He went through 6 guys. I like that. For those that say Saquon may have lost the step, I don't think he's lost the step. And he's 9th in the league in rushing, 7th in yards per game. Just because his numbers aren't like last year when he had 2,000 yards doesn't mean he's lost it. He carried the ball a lot. It just took a little bit of time. The offensive line starting to get a little bit healthier, starting to run block better, pass block better. And I think if we can get Saquon going, which we have the last couple of weeks, and we can get Tank Bigsby going, that is going to be our bread and butter going into the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think that it's become quite clear that control and time of possession is going to be vital for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's been clear all season. And, last season, their ability to just control a game by 5, 10, 15 minutes, even at times, is so important. And you talk about that drive in the third quarter. It took up nearly 11 minutes. Like, those types of drives are going to be huge, are going to be instrumental in the playoffs, and giving your defense rest where you can is going to be huge. And I agree with you. Saquon Barkley hasn't lost a step. If anything, this offensive line has lost a step, but I don't necessarily believe it's because they're not good or they're losing a step because of anything to do with ability. I more believe that the guys aren't 100%. They're banged up. I mean, I was calling Landon Dickerson rushing back week 1. I've been saying that was a major miss by the Eagles for weeks now. Why rush him back for week 1? Bring him back week 3 when he's close to 100%, or week 4 and he's at 100%. There was no reason to rush him back. Juergens, obviously, who's going to have to play through the post-back surgery. I don't think there was any way you could avoid that. Did anyone think that he would end up regressing to the tune that he has? Probably not. And obviously, there's people who don't because he's a Pro Bowler. There's obviously people who still believe Juergens has been decent this season. But if you watch enough Eagles games, you know he definitely hasn't been to the tune that we expected and when he took over from Jason Kelce. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, that combination of Bigsby and Barkley, if you can get it going and keep it going and control that time of possession, is going to be huge, and it's going to be absolutely instrumental in the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. And I think in the third quarter, the touchdown pass from Hurts to Goddard, that was a great play by Jalen, stepping up into the pocket. Could have ran it, but he kept his eyes downfield and threw to the perfect spot to Dallas Goedert, who, again, continuing his career year, a career high 10 touchdowns in a contract year. You know, doing what he needs to do, and he deserves a lot of credit. Like, he could have not come back, and Howie Roseman and him were able to settle it like adults, and he came back, and he's in there. He's fortunate too, because Grant Calcaterra, Kylan Granson, they're not it. Like, let's be honest, the Eagles are definitely going to have to prioritize a tight end in the draft this year. But that's going to be an off-season something for us to discuss in the off-season. But yeah, that was just an outstanding play, outstanding throw, and the Eagles in the second half were able to take control.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say enough good about where this offense has gone the last 2 weeks. I mean, at times are they slower? Yes, but they've got a lot more momentum than they've had. We, prior to these last 2 games, hadn't seen drives of 5-6 plus minutes by this offense almost ever this season. So it was more than important that they start to get that going, especially Saquon Barkley against, you know, crappy defenses. It doesn't matter. You have to get that momentum going. You have to get a step in the right direction. And that could be all it takes for Saquon Barkley to continue to roll into the postseason with confidence and knowing that he has the capabilities to do what we know he can do and what we saw last season. And, you know, having 1,000-yard rushing season based on, you know, some of the a significant number of issues that he's had this year is really impressive for him. And you know what? I mean, I'd love to see the starters rolled out to start the first half, and hopefully you can get the 1,000-yard receivers in AJ Brown and Devontae Smith again. I'm not saying roll them out there just for that purpose, but if you're going to roll the whole starting offense out there, then go ahead, roll them out. Hopefully they can get that too, and hopefully we can get that type of stuff rolling.
Yeah, again. I get people want to say you want to see them up against a good team. Just to, again, they need to be healthy going into the playoffs. The healthy Eagles team, like, there's no sure thing in the NFC this year. So the Eagles have as best a shot as anybody else. Also, the interception by Cooper DeJean, I know, was against Josh Johnson, throwing off his back foot all the way across the field. Not the best throw, but Coop being in the right place at the right time. He's a Pro Bowler this year for the first time, so congratulations to him. Q, Pro Bowler for the first time. Q, another outstanding game. I think maybe gave up a catch. The big catch for Terry McLaurin was against Adoree Jackson. Again, I don't know why Adoree Jackson was on him. Q should have been following him. But that's a different story for a different day. So yeah, like this Eagles defense, and people were talking about last week, oh, it was just the Raiders. They only gave up 75. Did people see what the Raiders did against Houston? Like, the Raiders had a chance to win that game against apparently the best defense in football. So They're still professionals. They still get paid. They still get to collect the paycheck, play in the NFL. The Eagles deserve credit for the way their defense has responded, especially without Jalen Carter the last handful of weeks.
Yeah, I still can't believe the way the media talked about the Eagles game against the Raiders, and then how they then went and talked about the Cowboys and the Texans. Like the way the Texans played, that would be concerning to me, that you allowed the Raiders to stick around and stick around and stick around, and we goose egged the Raiders. And people were like, oh, well, it's just the Raiders. Look at what happened with the Cowboys. Look at what happened with the Texans. Now we'll have a discussion about how the Eagles managed their business and did their business against the Raiders. But I agree with you. Again, we saw Adoree Jackson was targeted heavily per PFF. 5 for 5, 83 yards. So, I mean, we're not talking grades. We're talking strictly as he was the closest, the defensive player to the target. He gave up 83 yards. This was the first time, I think, since week 1 he gave up over 65 yards. So you see some weaknesses in Adoree Jackson, and obviously that can definitely happen. If we end up, like you talked about the Rams, for example, you go up against Puka Nacua, and if Devontae Adams is able to come back healthy and well for the playoffs, it's a game changer to have those two guys go up against Q and Adoree Jackson. What are you going to do in that spot if Adoree Jackson's going up against Nacua in a spot like you said? What was he doing on Terry McLaurin in that spot? That in certain situations he's going to be tied to probably the number 1 receiver, just because they're able to make something happen based on some movement, some pre-snap motion that happens. But they definitely went after him. 5 targets his way, 10 targets Cooper DeJean's way, but he only ended up giving up 32 yards on 4 receptions. So Cooper DeJean continues to show that he absolutely deserves his Pro Bowl spot. Q deserves his Pro Bowl spot.
It was pretty cool doing the Cena 5 knuckle shuffle.
It was. I agree. As WWE fan, I don't watch as much as you do now, but as a former WWE fan, that was definitely a cool celebration.
Hey, all the rumors of him dating Nikki Bella too. Woo, if he was, he's a lucky dude. But I doubt that that's happening. She's double his age. But yeah,
that doesn't matter. Age is just a number. Within reason. Age is just a number. From a 22 and a 42-year-old, age is just a number. So
hey, if he is dating Nikki Bella, good luck, my guy. Go ahead. Sorry,
but I agree on the Kenyon Mitchell thing too. Like the fact, like we've talked about it at length. The fact that he wasn't in the top 10 of fan voting was an absolute atrocity. Like that, clearly fan voting is clearly this guy got a ton of interceptions or this guy did. Yeah. It's the flash plays and what they see for the fans. There has to be, and clearly they put some value into the fact that the NFL put value into the fact that no one throws his way, no one looks his way. And I think that that's vitally important, because there's a lot of people who are really upset that Q made it and Nahshon Wright didn't make it for the Chicago Bears. Nahshon Wright, similar situation. He's a big play type of guy. He's got 6-7 interceptions on the season. He's had a really good season from an interception standpoint. I was meaning to look at their stats, but I'm sure that he's given up a lot more receptions, a lot more yardage, a lot more of those things. You can look at stats because someone shared specifically just the stats from Pro Football Reference, and it was just like interceptions, tackles, blah, 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 and completely left out what happens when they are actually targeted in situations like that. And I think that it's really important to look at it from that regard for Kenyon Mitchell, that, he wasn't targeted. People don't look his way. Quarterbacks, even the best of quarterbacks, do not look his way, and for a very specific reason.
Oh yeah, they don't. And obviously I would target Adoree Jackson before targeting Kenyon Mitchell as well, or Cooper DeJean. I think another big thing, a key for the defense, was the hamstring injury for Nakobe Dean. Obviously, he is a key factor, very key person for this defense. Now, Jordan Davis after the game said he's fine. Nakobe was at an event the other day. He said he was fine. He's somebody I would not put on the field the next 2 weeks. Because hamstring injuries can be tricky. I'm letting him get healthy. I'm letting him sit out, and then we definitely need him for for the playoffs. Brett Eclipse, thanks for joining us. What's good? You were at the game. I considered going to the game as well. It's only a couple hours away. I considered it but I didn't want to go to that dumb stadium. I'll wait for their new one in a handful of years, whenever they're going to build it. But yeah, I also wanted to go to the game this weekend, but it's supposed to snow, and that's why I didn't pick it. That's why I picked Minnesota. But I do. The Eagles play again in Buffalo in 2 years, so I'm hoping that, and it's gonna be their new stadium. I'm hoping it's not a December game. I'm hoping the game in 2 years is a September, October, maybe even November game, and I would definitely be in attendance in Buffalo in a couple of years. But yeah, going back to Nakobe. Hopefully he's fine, but I'm not risking him this week or obviously the last week of the year.
No, and you could tell when Nakobe Dean went down some drives after that, like the run defense was definitely a shell of itself. You could tell that they missed him. You could tell that they missed like him being able to hit a hole and completely take away like a specific side or specific gaps in an offensive line were instrumental in driving him another direction where plays could actually be made. And I agree with you. You can tell how important he is. There's no reason to put and I think it was a couple weeks ago we had this discussion about how do you manage them in week 17 and week 18 when the games matter like that. And I said the defense has nothing left to prove. You can pull most of that defense off whenever you want. The offense has more to prove and more to benefit from being on the field than the defense. And I continue to stand by that. If there's anyone banged up, if there's anyone who deserves to be off that field, it's anyone on the defense. Pick the majority of that defense. Like you said, Jalen Carter probably could stand to get a few reps just because, like you said, when he's been off the field for a while, and you could tell at the beginning of the season, Vic Fangio kind of talked about his conditioning, and he wasn't a big fan of what he was seeing from Jalen Carter in practice and in the early part of games. He could probably stand to go out there, and it doesn't matter on defense if you're out there with backups. But on the offensive side of the ball, very different story. As soon as you pull some of the starting offensive line, you pull the rest of that offense. But the defense deserves to be off that field.
Oh, 100% agreed. And Brett Eclipse says, I've been in the Philly versus Washington 2016, 2017, 2022, and last year in 24. Every year except 2016, they went to the Super Bowl the same year. Sign of things to come? Hey, let's hope. And if it happens, you better be going to every Eagles, go to every game in Washington forever if we get to another Super Bowl. Let's talk about the fight real quick. Do you agree with Sirianni's decision to go for 2? I get it when, again, we kind of brought it up earlier. I get it when you think about the math of it. It's 19 points. You need 2 touchdowns, 2 2-point conversions, and a field goal. I didn't think Washington was going to get 3 possessions, but hey, weirder things have happened. But obviously Dan Quinn and if you heard the radio broadcast for Washington, they were like, oh, he shouldn't have done it. Dan Quinn said, we'll see him in a couple of weeks. Yes, you'll see the backups in a couple of weeks. What were your thoughts? Do you think he should have went for it, kicked the field goal? They did kick the extra point on the 2 previous touchdowns before that.
I mean, listen, I'm fine with going for 2. You're not thinking about people's feelings. You're not thinking about, running up some points. We've seen way worse instances this season of teams running up points. He then goes and stands behind Jake Elliot, but goes for 2 on that occasion. And then the explanation that he gives, I don't know if I stand behind the explanation so much as he just was starting to lose faith in Jake Elliot, and then said that he was okay with he's backing Jake Elliott up. But I mean, I have no issue with going for this. This is a game for men. I mean, if he's seen this team blow games, most recently against the Dallas Cowboys that started the fourth quarter and they were up by 3 scores and they ended up blowing the game. So, I mean, I totally get it. I mean, the logic is fine. The reasoning is sound. We're not here playing as a bunch of emotional, people, and you go for what makes sense for your team. And in that moment, I totally agree. It makes sense. Put yourself in a position where you're for sure up 3 scores and you're comfortable enough to then remove specific starting players. You're comfortable with the circumstance. Of course, the fight then ensued. It didn't involve anyone. I mean, you could say Steen is someone of significance, but of course, not to any extent of other people that could have been involved in that fight. But at the end of the day, I mean, I stand by the decision, and we've seen far, far worse instances of running up a score.
Definitely have. So, I mean, it is what it is. It happens. And if Washington wants to go crazy against, Tanner McKee and Will Shipley and Darius Cooper, like, albeit go crazy. But, you do know, like, they're going to start their starters. Frankie Louva's probably going to try to get cheap shot somebody. But I week 18, I'm definitely not playing any starters. Brett Eclipse says, I was shocked when I saw them going for it, but your kicker sucked all day, and going for two automatically seals the win. Who cares if Washington gets their feelings hurt? I know, I agree with that. Who the heck cares?
If Dan Quinn's in that spot, I probably guarantee that he's going for it in that same type of situation. If your kicker's been that bad, if you can mathematically seal the game, you're a better team than what you are, I'm sure he'd be going for it too. Put yourself in the shoes of the Philadelphia Eagles. Dan Quinn obviously can't, because the Washington Commanders have been banged up and sucked all season. You can't put yourself in those same shoes, but we've blown 3-score leads. We've had a bad kicker that's blown games, blown kicks, blown situations. No, I'm not putting that at risk. You might as well go for it and risk it for the biscuit. I mean, I don't love the expression, but it is what it is at the end of the day. And I agree with the stance. Do I agree necessarily with the explanation? I mean, whatever. Like, Syria, I think he's just masking what he truly wants to say, and that he just didn't have a whole lot of faith in Jake Elliot. But like you said earlier in the episode, you're not going to call out Jake Elliot or call out specific people when your team's finally gaining momentum and has a more positive approach to it.
Even if he did it because he didn't trust Elliot, the 2 previous touchdowns, they kicked the extra points and he made them. And I'm pretty sure they were after the missed field goals. So that's my only thing. And so I don't know. It's weird. I don't care. Just do what you want to do. It is what it is. But shit happens.
I just think teams that are having a rough season, or teams that are in a rough spot, like the Washington Commanders, just get too emotional in those situations and think it's like a running up the score type of thing. It was just a way for the Eagles to truly bury the game and have the game done and over with, and they can rest who they want. They control their fate for the rest of the game and can make the decisions based upon that. And the Washington Commanders are envious of the situation that they could have been in that circumstance.
Yeah, they went from being in the NFC Championship game to not making the playoffs in a year. Who would have thought that the oldest roster in the NFL would have a bunch of injuries? I
also feel bad because Jaden Daniels, it's a tough spot to be in. Like, he's been banged out. I mean, the Baltimore Ravens would be in the same situation.
Lamar Jackson comes to quarterbacks.
Oh, agreed. And Lamar Jackson and his injuries. Like, there's so many teams that just the injuries absolutely killed them this year. And if Jaden Daniels was out there, even with the oldest roster, could it be a different story? There's a chance.
3 more wins.
Yeah, I definitely don't think they're competing for the NFC East title. No, I'll say that.
All right, so before we finish off the Pro Bowl games, the teams were announced today. 5 Eagles made it. Cooper DeJean, Jalen Carter, Quinyon Mitchell, Zach Bond on the defense, and Cam Jurgens on the offense. I was shocked by the Cam Jurgens one. Jordan Davis, a big snub. Jalen Carter making it, sure. Should he have made it? That's up for debate. I mean, that's a iffy yes or no. It doesn't matter. But it was good to see Q and Coop definitely make it. Q especially, because he wasn't even top 10 in fan voting. But the players and coaches who actually watch film and know what they're looking at, voted him in. So that was good. And Zach Bond for the 2nd straight year. Obviously, he's not having as good of a year as he had last year, but last year was like an all-time year. For anybody, just like Saquon Barkley had an all-time year. For anybody that was expecting that again, like, give me a break. So it was good to see them guys get recognized.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We talked about that with Zach Bond last week, I think, where we mentioned, like, if you were expecting Zach Bond to come out and perform to that same extent, I mean, you were probably asking for a little too much of Zach Bond, but he's definitely had a good game. I agree with you. I think if we were going to put an Eagles defensive tackle in there, Jordan Davis absolutely deserves it. Jalen Carter missed week 1. He's been inconsistent throughout the season. I can count on 2 hands how many games Jordan Davis has been a huge factor. I can count on 1 hand how many times Jalen Carter's been a huge factor consistently throughout a game this season. So that's
Jordan
my
Davis
biggest thing.
Like he had some plays.
These last 3 weeks have been
lost
huge.
In the backfield. It was great. Yeah.
These last 3 weeks have been huge. I posted it on our X feed. He's top 20 in pressures, and then he's like top 3 in nearly every other statistical category without Jalen Carter in the mix. Like if Jalen Carter comes back, like it felt like when Jalen Carter's in the lineup, Jordan Davis is kind of less of a factor, and then when Jalen Carter's out of the lineup, Jordan Davis is suddenly even more of a factor. I wish that Jordan Davis would remain equal factor when Jalen Carter comes back, and I hope he is when he comes back. But if I was picking an Eagles defensive tackle, it would have been Jordan Davis by a landslide to be in the Pro Bowl.
I think he's still going to be there. And again, I'll go back to Howie Roseman being smarter than everybody else and picking up the 5th-year option. People were up in arms when he did, and I was like, this kid, like, yes, he should have done it, and he was smart. Before we finish off, Jordan Mailata is in 2nd place in the Walter Payton Man of the Year Charity Challenge. So if you have a chance, find the Eagles socials, keep voting for him. He's in 2nd place right now. Jordan Mailata looking to win, I think, be the first Eagle to win the Walter Payton Man of the Year. So that would be really cool.
Yeah, no, and he deserves it. He does a lot for the community, and like his story, and we've talked about it on episodes in past weeks and years, how his story is just such a crazy story. He came from never playing a snap of football in his life, a rugby start in Australia, to being a starting left tackle. I understand people will talk about this year, and this year has definitely not been his better of years, but it also hasn't been the better of years. I was gonna say, I thought an Eagle had won it. Chris Long won it in 2018. But I mean, his story is really impressive, and I think this whole offensive line just really hasn't had a great season, and I think that automatically creates not the best of circumstances for all 5 of them, especially when you're dealing with Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens, who have had the worst of situations, who are dealing with it right beside you. It makes life a lot harder for Jordan Mailata. But the Walter Payton Man of the Year award is also a really great award.
Google's an easy thing to use. Harold Carmichael won it in 1980, and Troy Vincent won it in 2002. So
Google and AI can give you some really quick answers. So.
I could have easily done that and not made a fool of myself. All right. So the Eagles are your NFC East champions. 2 weeks remaining in the season before the playoffs come. And we get to host and I meant to mention
it sucks for the Eagles because the 2 teams that have the biggest impact on the 2 seed play at 9:20 that night, the Bears and the 49ers. So it kind of sucks because you have to make the decision beforehand for, if you're Nick Sirianni, do I play them for a half? Do I play them for the full game? And if we get the W, what's the benefit?
We'll talk about it later this week, but I start playing them, obviously, play on the half. And depending on how the game is going, then you make your decision at halftime. If the Bills are blowing us out, like, fine, put the backups in. But if it's a close competitive game or the Eagles winning, maybe just let it go. All right. Your Eagles are NFC East champions. We'll be back later this week to get you set for what I wish this game was earlier in the year. The Eagles and the Bills. I would have loved to go into Buffalo this week to see this game. But yeah, just like the NFL waited for the NFC Championship game rematch to week 16 for some dumb reason, we get the week 17 matchup, interconference matchup between the Eagles and the Bills. Will be after Christmas, on Friday. We do hope everybody does enjoy your Christmas, enjoy your holidays, as Santa will be making his way around the world sometime tomorrow night for Christmas morning. Connor, I hope your kids enjoy it. Hope you got some Eagles stuff for them, as always, because, go Birds, obviously. I got my dog a Kelly Green jersey. Got my dog, like I mentioned, got my dog a Kelly Green jersey. She already has a regular Eagles jersey. Now I just have to get a black and a white one later on. She's going to have all of them. And when that rivalry one comes out in a couple of years, whenever, I don't know when the Eagles are going to be the Nike rivalry, get the Nike rivalry jersey, but whenever that comes out, maybe get that one as well. As always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJHorrell54. And follow the Eagles Pinpull Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcasts at Eagles Pinpull Network. Thank you for all the chatter in the chat. We appreciate it. Helps the hour go by quick. We will be back Friday to get you set for the should be big, matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Buffalo Bills. For Connor, I'm LJ. Thank you all for tuning in to the Kelly Green Hour.